So what's the most expensive thing you'll ever buy? A house? Maybe. A car? Could it be a quadruple bypass? Honestly, maybe. But for most of us in Gen X, the most expensive thing that we'll ever have to pay for is our very own retirement. Because somewhere along the way, retirement stopped being a stage of life and became this event with a huge admission price tag attached to it. And I fear that some won't be able to pay that price. Because when you hear the recommended numbers that are floating around out there, the 1.65 million, the 2 million, most of us are sitting here like, who's paying that? I think a lot of us out there, we're looking for the bargain version, the outlet mall version, the 50% off sale price. And I watch a lot of YouTube videos on retirement, yet I've not watched one talk about what I'm talking about today. And that is this, that retirement is not operating on a level playing field, especially for Gen X. There's a looming concern for many in our generation because this product, labeled retirement, from the planning stages all the way to its execution, is not the same experience for everybody. So before we judge, before we blame, before we even speculate, let's just acknowledge the facts and put our innovative heads together and try to figure this out for all of us. Point number one is a tale of multiple realities. One of the biggest mistakes in retirement culture that I see is assuming that everyone starts from the same runway. We see those success stories of 55-year-olds laying on the beach, and the rest of us think, did we miss a boat somewhere? And yet, some people do enter their 50s with a paid-off home and a pension, maybe even an inheritance waiting in the wings, and a dual income earning household with no caregiving burdens. Plenty of those do exist. Other people, on the other hand, and I know a lot of you watching are in this camp, they deal with entering their 50s with the aftermath of a divorce or health setbacks, low wages, or the sandwich generation crunch that comes with the burden of supporting adult kids and your parents. And those two sides, they're not remotely the same game. And Gen X specifically got hit with structural shifts that weren't our fault, such as the disappearing pension or worse health outcomes than previous generations, and at the same time strapped with soaring healthcare costs to go with it. An economy so unpredictable feels sometimes like we're riding one of those mechanical bulls, and the massive shift where the entire responsibility of retirement was shifted from the employer to the employee. So no, it's not a level playing field. And we need to stop feeling guilty about it. And honestly, for those of us who have managed to build a little something for our future, I think we should spend more time being grateful for that, even if it's not considered a meaningful amount by today's standards. Because saving for retirement is never easy. It's not easy in your 20s. It's not easy at 35. And it's definitely not easy in your 50s. So whatever progress you've made against all odds, give yourself some credit for that. Point two is the luxury product trap. So why does it feel so expensive? Even the standard retirement model is being sold to us like a luxury car. It's built on high fixed cost and status-based lifestyles, and the idea that you need to maintain a certain level of consumption to be happy. The more things we own to prove that we've made it, the more hours we have to work just to maintain the stuff. Gen X was the first generation to be marketed lifestyles rather than just products. And breaking that spell is a massive part of your exit strategy. Because if you're chasing that version of retirement, you're essentially trying to finance a lifestyle you have to stay trapped in. But I've realized that the luxury version, that's not the goal. For me, the goal is freedom. And freedom is usually always much cheaper than luxury. So point number 3 is the Gen X survivability traits. So here's the bright side in all of this. Even if your opportunity isn't or hasn't been equal, your adaptability, that's your superpower. The people in the most danger financially aren't necessarily the ones with the lowest incomes. They're the ones with the most rigid lifestyles. People with status addictions, high fixed costs, and a total denial of their reality. But you're a Gen Xer with traits that improve your retirement survivability now. Traits like, first, low status orientation. You probably think less about what the neighbors think than previous generations, because we're like, whatever. Another trait, analytical thinking. You've been figuring it out since you were a latchkey kid. Remember when we were almost feral? And 3, a willingness to adapt. You can live below cultural expectations if it means you get more of your own time. And 4, systems thinking. Gen X knows how to build a DIY life because we've been doing that already for decades. We're creative. We're resilient. We're great strategizers. And that's how we're going to do retirement as well. Let's get to point 4, the bargain version, aka the exit strategy. Now let's say you're working with a very compressed timeline. You're 58, you have no massive cushion. So you're ready to shift into high gear. And awareness, that's the first step toward the exit. Now the bargain version of retirement, it looks like, number 1, keep finding ways to bring in more income. Now I already know that you're working a full-time job, you've got a side hustle and probably working something part-time as well. But don't always settle for what you can earn. Be on the lookout, always, for ways to earn more, to get paid more per hour, possibly even entering a completely different field. Just don't ever settle. And number 2 is avoid lifestyle inflation. We've all gotten comfortable paying for a lot of things that we don't really need. Go back in time, maybe 10 years, maybe even 20 years, and resurrect parts of your life from that time and bring it forward. It's much less expensive. And number 3, do things to improve your health. Whether they're small things or big things, they matter because you need your health to preserve your ability to keep earning. Anything that you do now to improve your health, to improve your strength, to improve your well-being is equal to or better than putting thousands in your retirement accounts. And number 4, the housing pivot. Be willing to move or downsize or even house hack to reduce that high fixed cost. Start thinking about some possible options now. And maybe you won't need those options, but at least you've done some mental planning and thinking about it. So if you take those Gen X traits I mentioned and these strategies, gives us an advantage and helps us get where we want to go. So why does all of this matter to me? Because I think about my generation a lot when it comes to our ability to retire. I think about my siblings. I think about my friends. I think about it in regards to me and my ability. Now, I got really serious when I turned 50, and I've made some huge strides since then. But I still have weak spots, and it's always good to know what those weak spots are, to identify them. And in my case, not owning a home, being a renter, I know that there are risks associated with that. Also, I have caregiving responsibilities that create uncertainty in my life. And being a solo retiree, that will come with some risks as well. But even with my weaknesses, I try to turn them into strengths, such as renting. I don't consider that a failure. I look at it as being liquidity. It means I can move where the opportunity is. It means I don't have to worry about the roof or the HVAC system or a house so large with a property tax bill that I can no longer afford. And you know what? Very few of us will have every box checked when it comes to retirement. And we'll still find a way to retire. We'll still make it work. We'll figure it out like we have before. I think Gen X always kind of thought that retirement would just work itself out. But here we are, now in our 50s and our 60s, and what once looked fairly predictable for previous generations is now completely all over the map. Retirement used to feel more like a standard package, but nowadays it resembles one of those old TCBY counters from the 90s where you got all these irresistible options everywhere. And honestly, just a few sprinkles, they go a long way. But also, just a cup of vanilla and the time to sit down on the bench and enjoy it, that goes a long way too. So don't panic if you don't have enough saved. Just aim for the most peaceful version of retirement that you can realistically create for yourself. Because peace, freedom, lower stress, ownership of your time, that may end up feeling a lot richer. But don't let me have the last say on this topic. I want to hear what you think. How can Gen X, regardless of financial status, work on building a path to eventual retirement for themselves? The comment section is waiting for you. Thank you for watching, and as always, hanging out with me. Just keep on trucking, and I'll see you in the next one. Where did all of the TCBYs go, by the way?